was kind of a little bit of a stepping into it. We really started the college in 1993, or sorry, 1973, 74, and started doing some classes. And a lot of people wanted to come to me as for patients. So we started the clinic and we didn't have the right products. So we started the herb company right after that. So the herb company part of it started in 1975. A little bit of an exaggeration. First of all, I wasn't living in the country in 73. I lived in the city. I had the dream of being able to grow some of the products on there. I woke up one morning going, oh my God, what happens if karma's true? And I'll get born as a mutated echinacea or something like that because I was using so much echinacea both in my practice and in the herb company that I decided I was going to plant some echinacea. So you might or might not know, but Echinacea angustifolia takes 3 years before you do it. So my first year I planted it. It took 3 years to get to a stage of harvesting it. And by that time we'd grown so much. I after harvesting it and sorting it and getting it all organized for marketing, I had approximately a week's worth of echinacea on our farm compared to the amount we were using. So I did a lot of experimenting and I used really a lot of the products for my clinic from our farm. So we grew over 100 herbs and we did process some stuff like that with my apprentices. But those are more for the patients than they were for the commercial line because the commercial line grew far and fast enough that we had to go out to the commercial market and get them, which we still do. Well, as soon as I finished my undergraduate degree back in 1972, I had the idea of moving out into the mountains and working on ecological things because my bachelor's degree is environmental sciences. And so doing that, I moved out and actually was living in a teepee for a while because I was writing a book on the edible medicinal plants of the Rocky Mountains, which later got published. In the process of doing that, some people at the university found out about it and they asked me to teach some courses in edible medicinal plants and continuing education for the University of Calgary. So I did that. And after doing that for a while, that made me say, well, why don't I run my own college and do it? And so that's what I did. And I rented space in the YMCA of all places and did that for quite a few years. And then also taught some other courses and got some other people until we got our own place, our own classroom in the Beltline area in Calgary. And then we did that and we associated a clinic along with it. At that point in time, we were already starting to use enough product that we started kind of contract manufacturing for our clinic. And several of the students were also worked in health food stores. So they wanted to carry it in their health food store. And so it just kind of grew organically. I didn't really plan most of these things. Before I knew it, I was just doing them. And some of the students were wanting to be able to sell it in their health food store. So I just created a wholesale price and started giving it to them and working with that whole thing along the line. And one store begot another store, begot another store. And before it, I was in 10 stores in the Calgary area. And then it, lack of better words, mushroomed into going into more stores. And within a couple of years, it was all across Canada. Well, first of all, it grew so organically, it just seemed naturally at the beginning. And then when we had that hiatus because of COVID, not having it was, well, somewhat devastating. And it was really a huge relief to actually be able to see the products starting to move in. Now we've only moved a few of the products in. We're planning on moving a whole bunch more in over the next little while. And we got all kinds of new plans of things we're passing by the government to see how they will work to get all the licensing and stuff like that. Because we really want to branch out into some more new ideas besides the ones that have worked for 50 years. Well, one of the major reasons is we were the only line that one was created actually by a herbalist, not a marketer. We were, you know, wildcraft herbalists and clinical herbalists and stuff like that. And all the batches we were using were actually being tested in, by this time, many clinics, because we started in our clinic and a lot of other people graduating used them in their clinics. And so they were being successful for an awful lot of people in their clinics. And that just drove the whole sales of it and drove the whole commercial idea of it. And then we kept on recreating products. We created a book to go along with it, called Feeling Good with Natural Remedies. Then that morphed into another edition and another edition till it was called Encyclopedic of Herbs. And those were really going through um, about 150 of the most common health problems that a person have, and what vitamins besides the wild rose and the wild rose and stuff like that, and what treatments they could do to be able to assist improving those situations. Well, probably the biggest one is to be flexible because you never know when something's going to happen. So, learning to be flexible and not get overwhelmed by the situation and just encourage yourself to move forward slowly over a period of time is probably the biggest lesson. Well, the one that trumps them all, no pun intended, are there's an awful lot of people that were on desk bed. The long and the short of being able to give them various diets and programs to come back to be able to live a productive life, maybe have kids after that, or whatever the case may be. All of those are very exciting to be able to do. And that kind of thing is really gratifying. My proudest accomplishment is making it 50 years. When you really think about it, because most clinicians and most people who do this don't make it much more than 10 years. And then they're burnt out. Even though I traveled a lot, I just had a chi that could do that and being able to do those various things. But it also humbling, it shrunk me down that I had to get down to just doing fundamentals again. And that's what I'm really help. So again, that comes to the first thing, flexibility, realizing, when to hold them, when to fold them, and when to walk away, as they would say in a cowboy movie. The long and the short of it is exploring other cuisines to be able to do that. Watch what our ancestors ate, eat off our ancestors' table, as it were. Try to figure out what your ancestors would eat. Those are really big hacks for the whole thing. And all of a sudden, you realize I really like that. It's a very good meal. Like, for example, for lunch today, we had a rock cod kimchi chowder, which was absolutely delicious but completely legal on the whole program. Because now I've got back from my traveling thing, and now I'm back on the detox. My spring detox I usually do right after Easter. I had to postpone a little bit because, well, I had to do a 10-day lecture tour in between. And I'm really happy at my elderly age to even be able to do lecture tours because they're taxing on you, for say the least. But I'm glad I'm home with my honey and being able to be here on the farm and do those kind of things. But my research area is going a little bit diverse. I've really been spending a lot of time over the last couple of years working on the four horsemen. What I really mean by that is cardiovascular things, diabetes things, Alzheimer's, and the whole area of longevity to be able to work with those things. But I am now at the stage of understanding the research well enough that even though up until a few years ago, I always thought that aging was a terminal disease and it couldn't be fixed. I think it's something we can actually fix. We now know some of the major causes of aging, and these are things that we can change. And I'm not talking about just living to 90 or things like that. I'm saying that to be able to live as long as 100 and live healthily. Now, there's no country in the world that has turned aging into a disease, but the World Health Organization in 2018 did. They said, now we understand enough about the disease of aging that we are now officially calling it a disease. Well, if you know what causes it, you can backtrack out of how to fix it. And so that's one of my biggest directions I want to go in the next 20 years or so.